A former US president with 6 accomplices tried to overturn the result of the 2020 election and is now indicted. It is a monumental charge with grave consequences both for Donald Trump and for US democracy. The accused is again the frontrunner for the Republican nomination. His supporters say the indictment is election interference. The playbook from 2020 is reopened before the contest for 2024 has even begun. American debt was last night downgraded amid the political turmoil in Washington. Tonight, our panel, Jennifer Carroll, Republican and former Lieutenant Governor in Florida, Miles Taylor, author of the book Blowback and formerly served in Homeland Security within the Trump administration, and Kelly Hyman, legal analyst and Democratic strategist. Welcome to you all. There is a section in the special counsel's indictment in which Jack Smith breaks down this alleged scheme into 5 distinct parts. First, it begins with the false claims of election fraud. It is important to note that the DOJ says explicitly that Donald Trump did know that he'd lost the election and made knowingly false claims about it. Second, the former president and his co-conspirators launched a 7-state strategy to pressure state and local officials to overturn the officially certified results. Third, they weaponized, to coin a phrase, the Justice Department to lend credence to these false claims of election fraud to try to pressure state officials. Fourth, they pressured the Vice President, Mike Pence, to do something they knew was unconstitutional and illegal. And finally, which brings us to the violence of January 6, they exploited and disrupted and redoubled their efforts on the ellipse to push these false claims of election fraud. A 5-chapter assessment of the conspiracy that Jack Smith will set out in court. But at the root of it, the very fact that Donald Trump knew his claims to be false. Any reasonable man would know them to be false, and he pushed them anyway.
Good evening. Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding. The indictment was issued by a grand jury of citizens here in the District of Columbia, and it sets forth the crimes charged in detail. I encourage everyone to read it in full. The attack on our nation's capital on January 6, 2021 was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies. Lies by the defendant targeted at obstructing a bedrock function of the U.S. government, the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election. The men and women of law enforcement who defended the U.S. Capitol on January 6th are heroes. They are patriots and they are the very best of us. They did not just defend a building or the people sheltering in it. They put their lives on the line to defend who we are as a country and as a people. They defended the very institutions and principles that define the United States. Since the attack on our Capitol, the Department of Justice has remained committed to ensuring accountability for those criminally responsible for what happened that day. This case is brought consistent with that commitment, and our investigation of other individuals continues. In this case, my office will seek a speedy trial so that our evidence can be tested in court and judged by a jury of citizens. In the meantime, I must emphasize that the indictment is only an allegation and that the defendant must be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. I would like to thank the members of the Federal Bureau of Investigation who are working on this investigation with my office, as well as the many career prosecutors and law enforcement agents from around the country who have worked on previous January 6th investigations. These women and men are public servants of the very highest order, and it is a privilege to work alongside them. Thank you.
Jack Smith, special counsel, speaking last night after the publication of that indictment. Donald Trump will appear in court, federal court, in Washington, D.C. tomorrow, where he will be arraigned. He will plead not guilty. He has dismissed this third indictment as political persecution. In fact, the statement from the Trump campaign says this: the lawlessness of these persecutions of President Trump and his supporters is reminiscent of Nazi Germany in the 1930s, the former Soviet Union, and other authoritarian dictatorial regimes.